We're live. Black Magic, Shane Tyler Milson, Tim So Show. I'm going to crack this actually because I'm going to want some. So Shane, what do we have here?
So Tim, what we have here is a bottle of Black Magic. Now, this is not a mushroom powder. This is not a simple mushroom extraction. This is not your everyday superfood or super herb. What it is, it's wild shaga that we harvested this week recently. We actually harvested, 5 days ago? The shaga that went into this. The mushroom growing off the tree. It was brewed the next day on a full moon. Kid you not. And it's got many different wild herbs that are going to be incredible for every area from your liver to your pineal gland. We left nothing in between.
Nice. All right, and this episode is brought to you by Black Magic Alchemy.
Life's better on mushrooms.
Oh, damn. I love it, bro.
It's a nice vibe, right?
That was fun, man. We let's just go right into the mushroom hunt.
Let's play.
Yeah, so last week we go to my cottage. Obviously orchestrated by Shane Tyler Milson himself. Anytime Shane tells me let's go up north, it's like usually I have shit going on and I'm like, oh, I can't do it. But this time we did it. And we went to my cottage. It was worth every second. Good. Yeah, man. So what is a mushroom hunt? What does that even mean?
Yeah, what's it look like? What's it mean? So a mushroom hunt is when we gather the troops. We try to do like 5 guys, 5 girls. Ideally, honestly, there's more women than men. Just like a good vibe. Like clubs know the numbers there. Like it just works. Something about the energy is great. So we go up north. We usually have a Jeep with us. We get up to a cabin and we try to pick a place that's at least 2 hours north of the city. That way we have space. We have room to think. And we want to be pretty off their radar, but we can go to a Tim Hortons if we need a quick coffee for like some weakling in the group that wants like Tim Hortons coffee. And we spend that time mushroom hunting. We go out and we spend at least a couple hours, as much as we can. Ideally, I like to do it every day. It usually doesn't end up that way based on just we want to talk and go through all those realms and dimensions of consciousness. So we end up, talking so much at these hunts that even though we say it's a mushroom hunt, it turns out to be so much of just like a transformation experience.
Yeah.
But yeah, the mushroom hunt part is we go into the forest, we find a nearby woods that looks incredible, and we go in and we're looking for shaga always. And then if there's any mushrooms that are in season, like this time of year was like turkey tail. We were finding a lot of polypores, artist conchs. And we're looking for mushrooms that we can actually bring back with us, turn into medicine or turn into food.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm always surprised when we go on these hunts because I've done 3 with you, maybe 4 with you now. And every time we go up, it's like we have to drive to it's like for some reason it's always an hour away. And it's like, why are we driving? Like, why? But it's like, you just know the spots or something. In northern Ontario, and I'm just always surprised. It's like, isn't there some place closer to our cottage?
You're driving by a lot of forest right now. Yeah. Why isn't he stopping?
Yeah, but like actually, this past drive was really nice because there was 5 of us in the car, and I just started to appreciate the time that it took from the cottage to the actual hunt because it's part of the experience.
Right.
And I didn't look at it that way before.
It's like the previews before a movie.
Yeah.
Like they're actually important to pump you up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
You go and you see a concert and there's an opening band.
Yeah.
I feel like the drive is part of that opening show. It's like when we get a chance to all bond, because I think the thing that makes mushroom hunts like really magic is the group of people we're with.
Yeah.
I've done a lot of the solo hunting many years ago. That's all I did. I didn't really hunt with anyone. Mm-hmm. And there's an enjoyment of that for sure. The silence, serenity of being in the forest. But there's something really nice when you all get to know each other. 5 random people. Because sometimes it's people you don't know. Like you didn't know that well some of the people in the car.
Right.
And you get to know each other through questions. So always do like kind of the questions. And by the time you're on the hunt, it's really beautiful when you look around and you just see all these other people doing what your ancestors would have done 5,000, 10,000 years ago to survive. We're doing it to thrive. Mm-hmm. We're literally in the group, and those feelings, you probably saw it, where you're walking through the woods and at one point you just kind of look and you see, Ida out there looking. She's like, oh, I think I found turkey tail. Then you see me, I'm looking up in some tree over in the distance, and you get this, I've always noticed this calming feeling comes over you. Where you're like, wow, we're engineered to do this. We're meant to look for food. Right. We're meant to look for herbs. We're meant to look for our medicine. It's an incredible experience. And I think that car ride there really sets that up well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think for the first time, walking in a forest, I actually felt like a forager.
Ooh.
It was an experience of I really wanted to find, it was primal.
What triggered it this time versus the other 2 times?
I think I was just more present this time. I was like, yeah, I don't know. It's just a level of presence that I mean, the last time was, I think it was a couple of years ago.
Right.
So I was in a different headspace for sure.
Dark years, as we call it.
Yeah, we talked about the dark years. Yeah, but yeah, I think it was fascinating to feel into the forest and into the woods, and I mean, even knowing how rare chaga is, and like knowing quite well that there's a 99.99% probability that you will spot it before me because you're just like so adept at that.
Yeah.
But I still had this like, I wonder like if this tree might have it, or like I wonder if I walk down this path, and it's like this like hunger to like actually forage something. It was very fascinating. And then even also noticing, being like, oh, like wanting everyone else to find something, and noticing it, that like, I hope we all find something interesting, you know, because we are going out there to discover the land, and we're trying to find something that is maybe novel, you know, or just different than what we're used to. And we found chaga on like 3 different chaga on this hunt. And it's like, every time we were all like, wow.
Losing our mind. I'm screaming.
Yeah.
You touched upon something that is, to me, why I think mushroom hunting is actually important, and why I think everyone should actually try it and go experience it. First, we talked about the idea of like, yeah, it's in our ancestral blood to go foraging. There's something magical that's primitively in there. But the thing you just said right there, that entire experience you just had, from the generosity of wanting others to actually find something, like have them have an experience, to the possibility potentials of, if I go down this path, maybe I'll find chaga. But if I go down this path, who knows what mushroom I might find. Mushroom hunting in a weekend is a microcosm that represents a macrocosm of life.
Yeah.
You go through so many experiences, including some of the negative emotions too. There's been mushroom hunts where I've witnessed, like I've done it for long enough that I've kind of gone through those earlier stages where after a while you can frame it as a competition, and you can actually get a little jealous that someone just keeps finding it over and over again. And I've been with friends where they're mad that Michael and I keep finding chaga. They actually start getting angry.
Right.
Like very spiritual people get mad that they're not finding the mushroom. And I can understand it for sure, because like you're in the woods for hours and you're like, how the hell do they keep finding it? And I can't see it before them, even if I'm ahead of them. So like there's this strange like things you go through internally, and then your thoughts, like sometimes random thoughts come to you, or things that have been bothering you come up and either release or get confronted, I find, in the woods.
Yeah.
So there's so many group dynamics that occur. But if you swap out anything to do with that mushroom hunt and you talked about any other experience, saying you want others to also have a good experience, you want to know like there's a possibility down any path I go. That's kind of life, you know. Mushroom hunting represents life.
Yeah. So it's funny because Cam called me a couple days ago, and he's like, "Hey, bro, like I just wanted to ask you a question." And Cam's a mutual friend, and he one of my closest buddies, and he's like, "Hey, like I'm just thinking about some like culture building activities for Station." For the company he works for. And he's like, oh, you know, we went to F45, we did a workout, it was dope, but like I'm thinking like, how can I bring more like, and I'm like, bro, like just think about the vibe at Station. Like, what is the vibe? It's fun. Like, look at what happens. Like, they posted a video of like Steve, the CEO, knighting a new employee just because he got a new email, the Station cold brew email, and he's like knighting him with a fork, you know. And it's like, that's like the Steve Valentine
that we all know,
we know and love, right? It's like that's the energy that's coming into the company of Station Cold Brew. And I'm just like, think about like you guys just need to do something that's fun and playful, because that's what you guys do.
Right.
Like, you work hard, but you also play. And then I was just like, dude, you guys got to go on a mushroom hunt. Like, and he's like, bro, thanks, man. Like, he's just like, it kind of like was this like moment for him being like, damn, like, yeah, you're right. Like, there's
That's
something
where that email
here.
came from.
Yeah, totally. So I see it. I view this experience as like an experience that most people haven't had, and most people I think would really like and enjoy. You know, it's like, why isn't this more popular? Like, why isn't this more a thing?
Yeah.
Right? Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, I wonder that all the time.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I think that a lot, not just even with mushroom hunting, but even going to woods, or when I was in Italy, like going to like this certain mountain range, I'm thinking that's a big town right there down below. There's a lot of people in the world that have heard Italy is a great place. Why are we the only people walking on this trail?
Right.
Why don't I see tons of people here? And I think that when I'm in the forest too, like we're going pretty remote, but you know, even when we're driving in, how is there not more cars parked off to the side going in foraging? It just blows my mind that people aren't experiencing what's right there. You know, it's shocking. I don't know 100% why. I think there seems like there's not a lot of reward. Maybe they just don't understand how to use it. I mean, like, I didn't like hiking and going on nature walks until I discovered mushroom hunting. I really didn't get that much from it. Right. It's when it became this element of some treasure hunt, some mystery. I'm going to find some adult treasure hunt experience going on. That's when it became really fun. So I think it's framed the right way. And if people understood, literally, people are going every single day and shopping and getting supplements and buying things, herbs to improve their health, taking on green juice cleanses. The crazy thing is this, though. They don't realize how medicinal the forest is.
Yeah.
If they were to go hiking in the woods and understand some of the herbs, everything from wintergreen to barks off birch tree, and then mushrooms and fruits like wild blueberries, all the availability in nature, it's going to supersede any supplement they're buying, especially the experience of going to get it themselves. It's like the forest offers all those options.
Right.
So it is more prevalent in other areas of the world. Like I was just in Italy, France, Greece last year, and those are foraging countries. People actually like to go mushroom foraging. So when you're driving through forests, very similar to how we were driving in Canada, you will actually see people parked like 5, 6, 7 cars like randomly parked where we were hunting. That's what it would be like.
Right.
And you see people with big baskets, groups of people get together and they're talking and enjoying the experience. I think it just hasn't hit the cultural status as it's known in Europe to be.
Yeah, totally.
But once it does, I think it'll be an Olympic sport sooner or later.
Right.
I'm gunning for it. I hope that mushroom hunting becomes an Olympic sport, because it becomes a fierce competition. Who can get the most beautiful, the biggest size mushroom, the most the best delicacies. There's points for porcini, there's points for chanterelle. Shaga's like king. If you find that, you get these kind of points. Like, it could literally become. Now, I'm not advocating like over harvesting shaga, in case anyone's listening and thinking, don't do the shaga one. Fine, shaga's off the table. But all the others would be a really cool. Wouldn't you think that would be fun?
Yeah.
We did point systems on it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So this kind of leads me into wanting to talk about just the something we talked about last weekend, about just the idea of hunting.
Oh yeah, I knew you were gonna go there. I was scared. I was like, oh, he's gonna do it.
Oh man, this guy's definitely bringing up. This is where my mind's going right now. So we talked about actually hunting animals and like hunting our own meat, and really, it was kind of something I started to say, that we've lost our connection to food, and what has brought me closer to my food was sourcing meat, like local grass-fed meat from the farmer that lives 2 hours from me. And like 8 years ago, I would drive to the farm, talk to the farmer. He would take me on a tour of the farm, whether that was like a beef farm or like an elk or a bison farm. And this guy would just like tell me about these animals, and, tells me about how many he harvests a year, like, just everything about the animal, everything about the land, how long, and he loved doing it. And I just was like, man, this guy is so close to his food. It's like, you can't get closer than this. Like, he's literally farming these, and he loves them.
Right.
And like, there was one time actually we went, I was with Mike Sanders, and we went to this elk and bison farm, and this guy, we drove close to this elk, and it was like, this farmer was like, oh, look, there it is. And usually they would like just dip, but this elk was having a baby. It was so crazy, man. He's like, oh my God. He's like, wow, there's something. Wow. You could look, it's there, that's the bag that's coming out of it. That's like holding the baby. He's like, yeah. He's like, okay, we can't get too close. It's like actually conceiving, and it was this crazy experience, man.
You saw his excitement too from the sounds.
Yeah, like it was like a big moment for him, and he's like lived on that farm for decades, and so it was like a profound moment, because it's like, oh my God, like this is nature, even though it's like a farm. It's like it's like 100 acres these animals have to roam across, But yeah, it was such an incredible experience, and it's what actually made me want to always source my meat from the farmer from like the local farm that's like really respecting these animals just from like an energetic perspective of like the meat that we eat. You know, I want something that's been like taken care of and like looked after and really loved and appreciated for the life that it's giving us.
Right.
You know, and that's why I don't eat meat out anymore. Like very rarely, you know, I will eat, like I'll usually order like a vegetarian or vegan dish, or like definitely not a red meat dish, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
I'm going to play those games.
Yeah. Yeah. So then, then I thought the next question was like, how do I get even closer to my food? And like, really, it's like taking the animal's life myself.
Right.
And so I've like wanted to get into this this process of hunting and understanding, but it's like, we were talking about teachers and we were talking about like guides and where the state of hunting is. And the state of hunting is like, yeah, it's just like, it's like not super respectful, at least from the people that I like, you know, that I know that talk about hunting and stuff. For the most part, it's not the most respectful sport, let's say. You know what I mean? It's even a sport. It's like a sport, right? Like that's kind of messed up. It's like and then what I really appreciated the conversation we were having was like how animals are so feminine and and for the most part, these are men hunting and it's like the masculine trying to like capture the feminine. Yeah. And it's like a microcosm of patriarchy in this physical form. Right? Yeah.
Yeah. The parallels were uncanny.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, it was just like it's a wild realization, and we kind of came to the realization that like, oh yeah, like we talked about how bucks, how like, you know, people are trying to hunt the bucks because they have big horns and stuff, and it's like trophy hunting. And then we're like, whoa,
trophy wife.
So yeah. So what are your thoughts on all that, on hunting and just like finding food? Because like we connect on food a lot, even just like our whole concept of slow.
Yeah. Don't tell them too much.
Yeah.
Well, Tim, I'll have you know I'm a raw vegan. But I haven't. So I think the big thing I want to hit right off the bat is the idea of how people respect the animal. And I'll make a parallel to mushrooms because that's my environment. Mm-hmm. Now, it's funny. I think it's going to be tough for people as a mass culture to respect the animal when there's even things in consumerism people aren't respecting yet, that aren't living in the same way like an animal would be living.
Right.
So like just even in my microcosm of mushrooms, it's shocking how much chaga is known within like people who are really deeply into mushrooms. They understand it's something that could easily become endangered if it's not monitored to some degree or level. It's not at least considered, is there a sustainable way to do this? But it's a conversation still not being had at even a mass level, even within a superfood boom with mushrooms, or there's just so much selling of like this mushroom and over harvesting that's going on. You know, there's definitely a way where we can look at it that isn't showing that it isn't necessarily over harvesting when you compare it to, let's say, logging operations, harvesting far too many, or like cutting down these trees with chaga and them seeing it literally as a cancer and trying to get it out of the forest and literally chopping trees down with chaga purposefully. Mm-hmm. So like, but there's definitely a level of like when you find these type of medicines, like how do you respect them, especially from the wild? That's not even happening with mushrooms and herbs. So it still feels like almost a little bit way away on the hunting side with animals, that it seems like there's still not that real respective consciousness towards that. And kind of relating to the feminine aspect we were talking about with animals, like nature's very feminine. Mm-hmm. Nature's creation and birth and wild and unpredictable at times and beautiful, but also can be like destroy you, you know, breaking down some of the David Data material, you know, on that concept with femininity and masculinity, that we see like this massive disrespect going on with like nature. And it's kind of like, I guess the way there's a patriarchy in society is kind of reflecting how we treat nature and how we look at animals.
Right.
Animals being from nature, the very feminine source.
Yeah.
I think hunting is one of those very, very interesting topics because obviously if we are going to condone eating meat, we're going to say that probably the best, highest version of that, the most pure would be, yes, get as close to the farmer or do it yourself. Mm-hmm. And yeah, that becomes a very like tough morality call of, could I actually go into the woods? Right. Could I actually find an animal? And like the hunting process is only half of it. You know, that's the part where I think we all kind of stop. We think, okay, we just like hunting it, looking for it, finding it, tracking it, shooting it. The next part is where it gets really gruesome, where it becomes like you've got to carve this animal up. You got to carve this animal in the forest to make sure it doesn't go bad and bring it back with you, which can sometimes be hours on an ATV, on a sled on the back of it if it's like wintertime, or like carrying pieces of it back. It could be a hardcore experience. Yeah. It's a tough call, man. Like, I have family members that hunt. I have a lot of friends that do it. I'm not 100% where I stand personally on it. I mean, I try to limit the amount of meat I eat, and like the same process as you. Like, I like to get to know the farmer as close as possible if I'm going to be indulging in meat. I'd rather much get to the point where if I'm going to be eating meat, it's so rare, and it's at the point where it's literally a small farm, let's say a flock of maybe like 20 cows. They take one animal down a year. It's done very respectfully, peacefully, as much as possible. I'm catering, knowing a little bit of veganism will be like heard through this, but I think vegans got to also look at where are they placing their energy, because a lot of vegans will be super mad about anything we're saying here.
Yeah.
But here's the funny thing. The same people do this with Shaga. They're mad that we're even like offering it with Black Magic.
Right.
But meanwhile, I'm saying, wait a minute. You realize like what's our market share? We're a pretty small company relatively to like the scale of what's going on, but you're coming on our Instagram or like hitting us up. I just wonder, are you actually hitting up all the big brands that are selling it in mass quantities? Are you asking them those questions?
Yeah.
So the same thing goes for vegans with this topic of hunting. I think the smarter move, if you really want the world to be vegan, is actually condone these type of conversations, so that way people start to consider the idea of like the morality of it, because a lot of people aren't willing to switch from eating meat to not eating meat, but they are willing to understand there's some issues with it for certain, with the slaughterhouse and the way that game's going on, that they at least can move the dial over to where we're talking about it. That would at least be one step closer to people just being like, it's so hard to hunt and it's so much work and there's so much that goes into it energy wise, and it feels like such an intensive process that I might be just at the point where I just don't want to even do it. So like that gets it closer to that land. So I think vegans are targeting the wrong people. I think they could actually move in towards target like fast food, like go after that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's definitely a lot we can say about vegans, but we won't maybe not.
Yeah, I wasn't meant to go after the vegans. Just pointing it out because I'm just like catering. I'm just knowing I can just feel like that energy, whenever you talk about it. I think because that's where our brains kind of go is like, is it better to almost not eat meat at this point?
Yeah.
So we're kind of like playing with that idea. So it's like, I think it's important. We'll make a big difference for our lives and the people around us if we start moving that direction more towards, let me actually consider what would it be like to go hunt my own animal.
Yeah, totally, man. Yeah. And I mean, even just like a lot of there's some farming practices that are, well, to me, very respectful to the animal, but also like very good for the environment, which is like not known really, because it's this new concept like regenerative agriculture that we've spoken about. And like there's the company in California called Kiss the Ground that know, right? And then there's the Savory Institute that's actually doing it with meat, with like planned grazing approaches with cattle, and they have like a positive carbon footprint on their farming practices. And there's a great Instagram account, I forget the lady's name, but it's called it's like @sustainable_dish, and she like posts articles every day, or like she writes a lot of the articles. I think her name might be Diana Rogers, and she like shows how like incredible it is actually for the land to have these farming practices in place.
It's necessary.
Yeah, it's almost like not even necessary. It's like our only chance to like get over climate change.
Yes.
Like planting more trees and like using the soil through animals.
Yeah.
To like stomp and whatever. I won't go into the process of the whole thing, but it is like a planned grazing approach where cattle are in herds. They stay in a specific area for about a day, and then they move to the next area. And so the ground becomes like trampled and basically ready to retain the carbon and break it down just through biological, or the methane, and break it down through just like, through the soil and fertility that's in the soil. But if you don't have that, then that's when the carbon goes into the atmosphere.
Yeah. And then people aren't getting your kale.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah. Kiss the Ground, I think, does a great job too talking about that concept. Ryland, who I've actually lived in front of before when I was in California. Ryland is actually such a proponent of that. And he's got such a philosophy and perspective from a very scientific view on the necessity of having animals on a farm.
Right.
It's a different topic. I guess they'll also say like, are you going to eat the animals?
Right.
But it's definitely like, that's a big thing that I think people look over. They don't realize like how necessary that actually is for a farm.
Right.
There's no vegan farm that's actually going to be successful without animals.
Yeah.
They're limited in the capacity of what could be done, because sooner or later that soil will lose its energy, much as what's happening right now. The soil doesn't have the same mineral content, and we're losing a lot of the carbon.
Yeah.
You know, so it's important. Like the agricultural revolution, people look that up. You see like animals were part of that, very important part.
Right. So you said the so a big thing about the mushroom hunts or being in nature is like it's very feminine.
Very.
Yeah. So which I agree completely. And so what does that mean to you when you experience that?
Well, I view masculinity as a lot of deep contemplative thinking. I think I'm an overthinker, being Aquarius too. When I'm in the woods, the first time I ever noticed this was I had talked to my girlfriend at the time many years ago about how bad I wanted to go into the woods, go mushroom hunting, because it had been so long. I'd just been so busy. So it'd been like, for me, too long is like 3 weeks. If I'm in an environment, I could go to the woods. If I haven't gone for 3 weeks, I'm like, what am I doing? So I kept saying over and over again, like, okay, we got to go. Let's go. Let's go. I was adamant about going. So we finally get up there. Drove like our 3 hours, then we drive our extra hour. You know that hour?
To get to
that 1 extra hour, passing all those forests, the prime territory, man. So we get to the forest, we get there. I start walking in the forest, and I am talking a million miles an hour. So many downloads coming through. I'm talking about YouTube videos I'm going to be putting out. Oh, I got this idea for this thing I'm going to do with the business. I have so many concepts and ideas coming through, and I'm just talking and talking and talking. And then she just interrupts, and she's like, Shane, you waited 3 weeks like to be in nature. Don't you just want to experience it now? It's like, shut up, basically.
Right.
Like, enjoy what you're here for. So I think what happens is when you approach close to the line of masculine or feminine, you get the extreme version of the other show up. So what I'm saying is, like, walking into the very feminine source of nature, it's so like almost wild and free and let go that as soon as I got close to it, I almost did the most, like, I tried to get so masculine and logical about like all these processes I'm going to be doing. And all of a sudden she's just like, whoa, just chill out. Just like enjoy what's here. Like be in the moment. I think feminine is way more present, way more to the moment. You know, so I think nature provides that. It forces you to be. As you're walking, you don't have time to be too deep into any thought, because as you're walking, suddenly you hit like a stump or something. Or you see like, oh, you're going to walk around this tree. You have to constantly be present to every single movement. I think that feminine energy of the force, like it always causes you to be in that state of presence. And it's, I'm going to say something that people might get mad at, but I think it's chaotic. And I think I relate that to femininity, is like women have that emotional energy that's so wild. And Eckhart Tolle put it really well. And I think Power of Now, he talked about the idea that when you're in a city is very, I don't know if he said the word masculine, but I picture he maybe meant this. He talks about the idea of like sidewalks and like everything's like structured, building. Like everything's kind of like you kind of can't walk off the sidewalk just randomly on someone's lawn without feeling like you're doing something a little wrong. Everything's like kind of like procedural, structural. It's very logical, but also very little joy, I think, can seep into that environment. He talks about being in nature as being the complete opposite. Nature's chaos. Like you walk in the woods, there's this dead log, there's like bees growing in it because the bees like building their nests in immunologically beneficial environments with mycelium. Paul Stamets. And then you're walking, and then some dead thing, then the mushrooms growing out of that, then there's like leaves coming over here, and then there's this plant coming up, this tree fighting this tree, this mushroom coming off that. Everything's just like, you look around, you're like, your brain cannot categorize what the hell is going on. Dead things are growing out of living things, or living things are growing out of dead things. It's just wild. So being in that environment, I think it allows a mind to let go, because you can't even come up with what you're even seeing. And you just get back to this divining rod within you that suddenly gauges like, there's mushrooms over this way. I don't know how I know, but it's like this feminine knowing it's there. I know it's there. So it really brings back that masculinity side and brings in that very feminine expression. I feel like you just be free in the forest. You just run with your arms open. You can touch trees. You can smell things. Like everything feels like senses turned up, you know?
Nice. Yeah, I feel that completely. It's fascinating, the chaos of the forest, but it's like, it's just as orchestrated as a city is with the like lines and all that, you know?
That's even better.
Even better.
Mycelium tracks, yeah.
Even better, yeah. Way better, actually.
But it doesn't look like it on the surface.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, until you like get in and see like, oh wow, like there is a genius to this whole thing, you know?
Certainly is.
Yeah. Phew, yeah, and I can resonate too with like just being like deep in like the planning or like the directional phase of an energy or whatever, or like whatever you want to call it.
Right.
Just like getting a lot of things done. Like I feel like I'm in that right now, and like especially the last week or so, just because I'm going away in a couple weeks, and there's always like, and like you know whatever, it's broth season right now, so things are picking up. And just noticing how like when the flow of like the feminine rolls in, whether that's through nature or whether that's through like yesterday I was in a cold tub, and like a 1 degree cold tub, like you gotta surrender, you know, like you can't be like, if you hold on and resist, like it's gonna be more painful. Right. It's already kind of painful, but it's gonna be more painful, you know. But when you can actually allow your breath to like flow, like to me, like the feminine, then you can actually drop into a state of calm in that like insanely cold place. But I had some like challenges in the first like 30 seconds. It was like, you know, like really, and the first 30 seconds is always tough, but this one just felt a little tougher. But so it is interesting to notice how, when you're so directional driven or so like in your masculine and the feminine approaches you, it's kind of like, whoa, this is a little like almost like shocking, you know, because it kind of like feels really good, but you don't know what to do with it. It's kind of like how your ex-girlfriend or whatever said to you. It's like, don't you just want to enjoy this? And you're like, whoa.
What's your plans? Yes. I thought I was taking over the world on that conversation. Next thing I know, I'm like, oh, yeah, you're right. That makes more sense. Right. Let go.
Yeah.
Yeah, and water's so feminine, too. I feel like that's probably the best expression of it. Like cold water.
Yeah.
Not necessarily cold, hot, too. But like, yeah, it's surprising how much nature... 1 minute it's beautiful. You're going for a nice, beautiful hike. The sun's out. Talking, then all of a sudden the weather turns a little bit. It gets a little rainy. Suddenly you're like, wait, I think I'm lost. Because you know you're sleeping next to your friend and like without a paddle scene, and you're pretty cold, and you're like, this is scary as fuck.
Right.
And then the next morning you're like, I'm glad I lived, and you're like, oh, I'm so grateful again. It's kind of like, you know, speaking to some of the guys out there, we've all had the women, the feminine situation. You know, if you've gone deep in those relationships, they can be moments where things just swing. Suddenly you just think everything's all good, and you just like suddenly just realize like, yeah, I'm like, I wasn't being present with her and I said something stupid. And then she just kind of like disappointed, and you're like, you feel like the whole world has shunned you suddenly. Right. You're just like, yo, no success feels worthy anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like, I feel like nature and women remind, like there's such a, maybe it's like I go into nature to understand women better. I don't know. Maybe that's it.
Right.
And the mushroom hunting part is maybe the masculine part is like, I'm going to gather something.
Right.
I'm going to hunt something. It's like, I'm going to test every skill in my body to find these mushrooms. But it's funny, all the skills it takes to actually hunt mushrooms successfully. See, everyone thinks it's a logical thing. Like people are all, you look up how to harvest shaga. Like people are looking up tactics and skills and techniques. And people wonder why in the hunts we find them, like Mike and I, because we've done it so many times, we understand this and we've had this conversation. This is not logic. This isn't, there's some basis level to it of, yes, if you're in forest, that's a pioneer forest, there's going to be more birch, more likelihood of shaga, since shaga's home with birch. There's symbiosis together. But once you're in the forest, there's no technique anymore. The real technique is only one thing. You know the way they find spring water with divining rods?
No.
You seen this? It's like a rod. It seems super mystical, right? Yeah. They hold a rod in the air, and literally people can find where underground springs are and tap them. They walk, and the belief is there's an electromagnetic energy of the spring that they tap into, and then the rod starts to churn. And they literally find the spot where the spring is.
Wow.
So I say the reason why Mike and I will beat anybody at shaga hunting and will find more than everybody is because we're literally just divine. We understand we are the divining rod. So we actually just tune in and trust this feminine feeling inside, this intuition calling saying, it's that way.
Right.
No intellect is needed. It's just suddenly your body starts turning like, I don't know why I'm going this way. I could claim it's because it looks like more beautiful. It's more by a stream. No. Right. It's just, we're just trusting constantly. It's like a let go. So we always end up finding it. We're just clear what we're going to find, and we find it. We work with the masculine. Like, I am decisive. I'm finding shaga today. Right. There's no way I'm coming out of this forest without shaga. Right. And then utilizing the feminine of, I'm going to trust I know where it is.
Nice.
It's both.
I love the what David Data says too about the feminine and how it reflects it reflects you, you know, like where you're at. So it's like, so it's like the like your, whether it's your woman or anything that's feminine, like even nature, like you said, the weather can turn, and it's like, it's just reflecting your consciousness.
Yeah.
So it's always a, to me, it's like an anchor point of like, or like a, what's it called? Just kind of like, oh, that's where I am right now. You know, like you're doing all these things in your life, and you know, you're like running your business, or like you're growing and doing all these things, and you're kind of like, you kind of know where you're at energetically, but then you just like look at your woman or like go to the forest, and you're like, whoa, that's like, this is actually what's happening right now. It's like, this is reflecting me exactly, precisely, you know?
It's a laugh of recognition. I'm like, yeah, dude, 100%.
Yeah.
100%. You're like put so deep in your place.
Yeah.
You'd be like preaching Zen and philosophy and reading like some deep Osho book of secrets, like practicing transcendental meditation. You're like doing all the right foods. You're eating your greens. You're doing like your best life. And all of a sudden, like one conversation comes up and it hits some trauma trigger point in you, and some like protector,
that's right,
comes up, and all of a sudden you're like yelling. Next thing you know, on the phone, you're like, "Fuck! An hour ago, I was like in such a good mood and zen." But it's like she'll hit you where you're weakest. Mm-hmm. When you fill up the reservoir of like spiritual energy in your body, like it will hit the points where suddenly you're physically weak and you suddenly feel pain somewhere. You're like, what the hell's going on?
Yeah.
I'm healthy. Why do I feel pain in my arm? It's because you're filling up the reservoir. And the same thing goes with women. Like it hits a point where all of a sudden, like if you were to fill this right here with like all your traumas and all the things going in your life, I'm going into your territory. I hope you're okay. Yeah. And you fill it up with like sand and rocks, like all the times you got hurt, all the little things going on inside. And then you fill it up with liquid. It's going to hit those points and it's going to be noticeable. Like the stone might churn a little bit, suddenly you feel it in you. I think women are the exact same. Like you bring a woman into your life, that's a real, like Ram Dass talks about the idea of family in the sense of, if you think you're spiritually enlightened, go spend a week with your family. Nice. See what happens next. Yeah. Then it'll come for you. So if you think you're spiritually enlightened, or you think things are going well, you made $1 million, your business is doing this, 10x growth multiple, I don't know. All of a sudden, you bring a woman into your life and she's just like, yeah, but
yeah,
I don't know how present you've been lately. Let's teach you a lesson.
100%.
Yeah.
I've actually... I think what I've learned, what a big lesson I've learned over the last couple years, over the last 2, 3, 4 years even, is like not to trust excitement. You know, it really can, something great happens and you're like, man, wow, like I'm doing it. Like everything's right. Everything's going right. How can this end?
Right.
Like I'm on the path, you know? It's like, and I've just been noticing the feeling around it, like more so, not like trying to tell it to go away, because that's like, I don't think that works either, but just noticing when that excitement arises and like the feeling in your body, and it's like electrifying, and like you literally feel like you can take over the world. You could do anything. Nothing will ever stop you. Like you are invincible. You know, that's the feeling that I get when I feel that kind of excitement. And now I'm just noticing like, hey man, like this will pass at some point, and actually you're going to feel like shit at some point too. So it's like it's kind of just like a calibration of like not trusting it, like, you know, or just being like, getting that like, okay, this is here right now. And it's so convincing, but it's like actually not the truth, you know?
The difference between childish and childlike.
Mm-hmm. What do you mean by that?
When you see a child really enjoy something, the excitement is unparalleled.
Right.
It's incredible. The child's like so happy.
Right.
You know, playing with a toy, and all of a sudden it's like, wow, like so captivated and so excited by it. Mm-hmm. We're going to Disneyland. Oh my God. Yeah. Like so happy.
Yeah.
And you're like, whoa, Jesus, powerful. That's childish. Mm-hmm. But later you can mimic the same thing as an adult, aware of it, where like you're saying, like you understand there's an excitement there, and it could be childlike. Like the version of childish that I think I'm saying here is the version where you get lost in it without realizing like the time will come where it will pass. Exactly. There's like some acknowledgement of that, but it's still beautiful to have that excitement if it's from a more childlike perspective. Mm-hmm. Like you mimic the same level of like, you really let it hit you. Like that excitement's so amazing. Jovial. And it's like, it feels so good. But it's also understanding like don't get washed away with it though.
Yeah.
Like, understand there's that balance between like that childlike and responsibility energy like coming together, I think.
Yeah, it's like a humility.
Yes.
It's like being like, all right, cool. This is the spectrum of the emotion of a human being. There's also a thing called grief, which is pretty much the exact opposite of this excitement.
Right.
And like at some point you're going to feel all of this.
Yes.
And right now this is excitement. It feels great. You probably want more of it.
Yeah.
I get that. And just like, enjoy it. Don't not enjoy it, but like, just know that, and it kind of like brings me back to center when I give myself that reminder. Just like I could take a breath and be like, all right, cool. And just like, it allows me to stay on what I believe to be my path,
Right.
Cause that could fucking throw you into into a whole new thing. You could start making decisions that probably are going to take you further from your path. And eventually you're going to have to come back, at some point. And it could, to me, it's a level of delusion. It's a level of being fooled by this like intense feeling of excitement or desire towards something more,
Are you familiar with General George Patton?
I think I know the name. Was he on a podcast somewhere?
No, I think he's long past, but
okay.
I think it was during World War II. I don't know if it was World War II or World War I. I should get that number straight. But there's a philosophy he says. He's considered one of the best American war generals of all time.
Maybe I read him in a Ryan Holiday book.
I believe, Ryan Holiday's probably mentioned him.
Okay.
Yeah, he's really up there with like Sun Tzu and like different his perspectives on like philosophies with like strategy, leadership are like unparalleled. Like I love George. It's so interesting, his philosophy. He says one thing I think absolutely relates to this from a strange way. Mm-hmm. He says reports are neither as good nor as bad as they ever are reported. Nice. What he means is there's so many circumstances that if you don't rebalance against it, you're going to be in trouble. So for instance, when reports would come in like, okay, we're making an offensive on the German army, if it's a soldier's going to report it two different ways. He's either going to report it over the top or under the top. So if he's really tired and pessimistic, he's going to be saying it a very different way. Mm-hmm. We're not doing so well out here. We're hungry. We're not getting fed. We're not going to have sleep. It's like, we need more troops. He's going to report it much worse than it probably actually is. Mm-hmm. He's going to be melodramatic about it. Mm-hmm. On the other side, they'll over-report if they want to get status. They'll say, oh, we're doing fantastic. They get there like, you're not doing that good. Right. So it's always like, you always want to counter against both sides and play it to the middle. Like always understand no matter how the report comes in, it's probably not either as good or as bad as it sounds. Nice. So the same thing with yourself as like your own leadership with yourself is understanding however excited you've gotten, you're going to be able to look back at this in a more sober mindset and look at it and be like, okay, I maybe I was a little bit maybe over the top on that one.
Right.
Or those times when you're very pessimistic or depressed, you're like, when you pull back, especially that one, and you look back, you're like, yo, man, world's pretty good. On my rank of like where I am on earth, I'm probably doing pretty good, even as bad as that was. Right. Emotionally. Like you can kind of always find it at middle point. So, and I always think about it with like a law of attraction perspective. I always wanted a Jeep. I always thought that's the mushroom hunting Batmobile. You got to get a Jeep. So I always had that like on dream boards. Like that was my dream vehicle, like sick off-road Jeep. I realized like every time I'd see them, I would almost get too excited. I would get too excited and I realized I was actually holding myself back from it because it seemed not of my reality because it would get me so excited to see them. It was like literally at the point where I realized I'd brought that threshold all the way back down to just like peacefulness when I saw them and just be like, yeah, of course I can get that if I want. And started thinking in that mentality. Suddenly, next thing I know, I'm like, every time I'm in Canada and I pick my rental car, I'm just like, I'm getting a Jeep every time without even a thought of affording it. Yeah. It's like, I'm getting my Jeep. There's no question. I'll go to a different enterprise. I'm getting my Jeep. Yeah. So it became like, almost when I got peaceful with it, it just became of me versus like apart from me as being a separate thing.
Man, wow. There's something that I really like to ask around these things that we really want. And really like the question ultimately is like, what would it be like if it didn't exist? Or like, what would it be like if you could never have that, or who are you without it?
Right.
And it's because so not just from material things, but, and this gives us a really good indication of like where our attachments are in life. And like, look, we're all fucking attached to something, it's like no one's enlightened here. You're attached. Yeah. Shut up.
Exactly.
And it's nothing wrong with it, and it's like, there's nothing wrong with being attached at all. It's just it's just, it is what it is. Right. But so I started like asking myself these questions. Like I've been really trying to like, I mean, first of all, you do an incredible job. To me, you're like the least attached to anything material, because you literally travel the world with like a bag and like 2 weeks worth of clothing, and like you're good, you know?
Minimalism on high.
Yeah, you're like, yeah, exactly. You're like, what did you say the other day? You're like, the minimalist documentary? Fuck that shit. I know what minimalist
I thought that
is.
was weak when I saw. I was like, you guys think that's good?
Yeah,
Wait,
yeah.
I'll show you what's in my backpack.
Yeah, exactly. So I've noticed the things that I'm attached to from a physical perspective. Like, for example, my laptop. I'm pretty attached to it. Like, there's a lot of work and great things I can do about it, with it, you know? It's like, if I didn't have it, like, I would kind of suck, you know? But I do go on a meditation retreat without my laptop or phone at all, so I can just, like, see what it feels like, you know? And it actually is, like, not bad at all when I'm on a, you know? But I think it's like, okay, first it's material things, and then it's like really what's next that's important. Like to me, it's like relationships, you know, like who are you without your best friend? Who are you without your lover? Who are you, you know, and let's take all of that away. Now what happens? And, you know, it's like that's a real contemplation, you know, because you don't know what it is, because it's there right now. Right. So I guess what I'm like getting to here is like practicing this and practicing this question within, like, every day is like, and then really what it actually comes to is like meditating on your death, right? Because once your relationships are gone, then it's just you and your identity. And like, who are you without your identity? Who are you without these different parts of you, you know? And really you're dead. You're just, to me, yourself. You're an energetic force of whatever, right? Like you're
you say forest or force?
Force.
Sick.
What
I said force. You're an energetic forest. I'm like,
forest.
Wow,
oh, cool. Yeah. So yeah. So that's. I don't even know what we started talking about, but it kind of came to this, like,
such a good place.
Meditate on death. Yeah.
I think you're a really good example of experiential. See the difference between a lot of like philosophy versus, like, let's say a practice like Tantra, like that whole concept of Tantra is very like on the field. Let's actually do it. Let's not philosophize about this concept, and like, let's actually experience it. Right. And you do that. Like, you put yourself through what I think most people would perceive as a very uncomfortable experience of 9 days silent meditation.
Right.
And now you're upcoming on a 30-day one.
Yeah.
So you're actually willing to put yourself into the real experience of, let me forcefully detach from everything and see what happens. Like, yeah, you described like, this is not a walk in the park. Like, you're like, this isn't comfortable for me.
Yeah.
You know, I think I want to make a statement on the record. I think the mind is a melodramatic bitch.
Dude.
Always wanted to say that on a podcast.
I mean, I love that you say it. I like that you say that. I mean, in IFS, we would never call any of our parts a bitch.
God, no.
but there's a part of me that really likes that.
Right.
Because, dude, like, you could see this very viscerally, like in a meditation retreat, just noticing the dramas that we create in our mind. It's bizarre. Like,
great.
And you know, you come like the next day, you're just like, oh my God, did you notice how that whole drama was created? It's like, you literally like see a person, they walk by you, they give you a look, and it's either like, you could go one of two ways. You can be like, they don't like me.
Right.
You know, and you start creating this whole story about this person who doesn't like you, who's been silent beside you for like 7 days.
Yeah.
And you go down this whole path, or you go into this
7
like
days.
You know what I mean? Like,
I can't take 2 minutes on a train, I guess.
That's right. Yeah.
Like, what's going on?
Yeah. It's like, you create these wild stories within our mind, and it's so easy to get entangled in them.
For sure.
Really, you know? And I think this kind of comes back to the practice of like, what's the practice of getting disentangled? And I think for you, it's like being in the forest, you know? And for me, it's like meditation retreats, or, you know, disconnecting from hyperstimulation in some way.
Vicious mentors too, I think, are good.
What's that?
Like a vicious mentor.
Oh yeah.
Calling you out.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, when you can't win with your mind because you know they're smarter than you.
Yeah.
You're like, shit. They're older, they're smarter, and they're going to say some stuff that's going to blow you back. It kind of puts you in your place mentally. Because you think like, you know, because yeah, we do get that entanglement. So it's like there's moment. I think there's just like there's so many versions of like there's always like a paradoxical version. Right. There's like the hardcore like you're gonna go silent meditation, hardcore in terms of everyone else.
Yeah.
9 day, 9 day, 30-day meditation and experience like separation from all of that, and then start to see the melodramatic nature of the bitch mind. Then there's the version where it's like you drive up north, go see your mentor, north, south, wherever you're going, and you see your mentor, and all these dramas and stories you had about your limitations or your perspectives suddenly get destroyed by someone who's maybe he's maybe making 100 times more money than you, or 100 times happier than you, or 100 times more successful in a relationship than you, suddenly tells you, yeah, you're just making up all that bullshit. And they call you out and like retwist it.
Right. You're right. They really give you this kind of 30,000 foot view of like, hey, look at that story that you just mashed up and you just got so wrapped up in. You're like, oh, shit.
Yeah. Feedback loop. Let's like brave people telling you the meditation retreats. And what I'm really interested in, Tim, with like the meditation retreat is by the end of it, you've gone through that experience of like the 7 days beside someone or 8 days, like totally silent and thinking all these thoughts. Like, is there some end to the wormhole of the mind's story about that person where you finally like you and the mind are just like camaraderie? Okay, we can agree. No more story.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you get to that point?
For sure. Well, you see how very, well, for me, you see how very impersonal it all is. And like when you do see the fascination of the story and drama your mind creates, you could really chuckle. Like you could really like take
a Joker laugh.
Yeah, you could really take a step back and be like, and there's just a level of peace with that, you know, with just like the amusement of how all of this is unfolding within us. Yeah.
I also love the Stoic philosophy of a day each month. These Stoic philosophers from Plato, Socrates, and so on would have these days where they would go without. They would live abundantly most of the month, and then they would go a day without. They would like literally live homelessly and experience what it's like to be starving and go through that like recalibration experience. And I think that's a big secret to like being happy is constantly doing the recalibration. Totally. And that is like a big thing with everything from health. Like people are way too lofty with their health. Yeah. Like they got to have it a certain way. But when you just finally go a day where you see some fast food with your friends, God forbid, God forbid. And you just actually experience no meat, of course. So I'm not saying that. Everyone chill out, Beyond Burgers. You just go a day where you have like some fast food and you just have fun and you like Netflix and chill and like do a day where it's not about personal development, a day that's not about like clean eating, a day where it's not about saying all the best things or the smart things, and you re-experience what it's like before, maybe before you went into that world. You recalibrate. You're like, oh shit, I do like this side better. Yeah, totally. The side that I was on with like being healthy. Now I get how important it actually is. God forbid the person who never gets sick. People are like bragging like, I've been sick for 7 years. I'm like, yo, pity. Yeah. Pity, bro. Right. Because you forgot how good it actually is. You forget how healthy you are until you're sick and then you don't have it. Right. Then you're ill for a couple days or you got food poisoning or you broke your arm. Something happened to you that makes you re-establish the gratitude of not being sick. I got food poisoning in France and I was out for like 3 days, like shaking cold, fucking destroyed. And I'm telling you, dude, when I came back from that, I was so grateful to be healthy. More grateful than I think I could have ever been if I had just stayed in this state of mind where I was like, 5 years, I've never been sick. Like you just you forget how good it actually is. It's a recalibration. Yeah. And I think, well, at least for us who, and many others, I'm sure, who like kind of live life experiencing and seeking extreme situations, the recalibration is necessary, so necessary. Right. You know? Yeah. And I imagine this is like I'm about to read the book Stillness is the Key by Ryan Holiday. Yeah. And I imagine this is a big theme of what he talks about in it. So yeah, I'm looking forward to diving into that. Yeah, so we have like I think you got to go soon, so it's 1. But great. Let's end with let's talk about where we're going in the next few months, man. Ooh, okay. That's exciting. Yeah. We'll bring everyone in for the dream building. Yeah. So yeah, which direction do you mean by that? Well,
All right. So for me, I'm traveling quite a bit, but we're going to be meeting in Medellin.
That's right, baby. Colombia.
What are we going to do there? Why are we even going?
Gonna find those coca plants and maybe grind a few up and just look at them and cherish them and not smoke them or put them in our nose or any cavity of our body.
Right. Yeah, maybe.
They're good for altitude sickness, and I have a lot of that.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I'll be taking some coca leaves, everybody.
Nice.
Yeah, we're excited for that. We're going to be doing some masterminding and dream building there. We're going to be working on the Tim So Show, everyone. And we're going to be just practicing our art, like the 10,000 hours to mastery of podcasting, taking lots of YouTube videos and really just documenting that process and learning from each other. The best is to be in a mastermind scenario where we're going to be together. Who knows, maybe Pierre Biani's there.
Yeah.
Shout outs, Pierre. Come on out. And we're all working together. And I think that's super, like, that's to me exciting. That's the best way I want to start my year.
Yeah.
Like with other like-minded, powerful people.
Yeah. Same, bro. And also obviously just away from Toronto in the winter, but
yeah,
I've traveled quite a bit, but like a lot of it has been solo travel.
Right.
Like even just like 2 years ago, I went to Costa Rica for a month by myself, and
right,
it was cool. You know, like Alex was there and like,
yeah,
met some friends, but man, the fact that like we're
100%.
doing this together, it's like, first of all, like our life is great. Like, it's like, what the fuck are we doing? Like, this is sick. We're going anywhere in the world to just like work on anything we want. So
yeah,
I'm super grateful for that. I'm pumped. And yeah, man, I'm just excited to experience this country. I've never been to South America. So.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Is Ecuador South America?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay, good.
You've been?
I've been.
Nice.
It's like, I don't literally know.
Nice.
That's sad. What's your thoughts on solo versus traveling with people? Benefits, cons to both?
Well, like benefits is like, you just like, you're on your own schedule.
Right.
You know, and like, it's just so much, like, to me, it's like the amount of, like, there's nothing more freeing than that. You know, you can meet a person and you can go on like a whole journey with them, or, you know, you can stay in a place for a month, or you can stay for 2 days, and it's like kind of your choice, you know, and whatever you feel like doing. But it's not really where I'm at right now. I think where I'm at right now and what I've realized about going to places, I kind of like made this list of like things I need in any space. And like, it's really just like a big enough space that I can work and like, you know, get into my workspace, space to move my body, whether that's at my place or close by, a warm place, and somewhere maybe by an ocean or like near a mountain. That's new. Nature, definitely.
I'm liking this list.
Yeah.
It's like my list.
Those things. Yeah. And then there's like one more that was added recently, and maybe a woman.
100%.
Yeah. But and oh yeah, no, sorry. The last thing, actually, the big thing is like a tribe. You know, like people who I can actually be in a creative space with.
Huge.
Yeah. If I don't have that, like, it's kind of sterile. Like I felt a little bit like that in Costa Rica when I was there. It was just like, it's like, yeah, this is cool. Like, you know, I like this place. It's fucking beautiful. I get to surf. I get to like do all these things. But like, I didn't really feel like there was people I could just drop into a creative space with, you know? And that's what actually I'm mostly excited about going with you and potentially Pierre. And yeah, so yeah, man. Yeah, bro. Anything else you want to talk about? I think you gotta roll soon, but
Last thing I want to talk about is Zen.
yeah.
Because we're wearing white and black.
Also,
There's a
like,
lot of
this
Zen.
is actually like, I didn't
recognize that until you said it too.
I'm on the light, you're on the dark there.
What's your thoughts on like different religions and philosophy, dude? You're like, where are you on God?
Oh man, dude, that's such a good question,
My
because
favorite first date questions are the most violently
Where
like
are you on
opinionated
God?
ones. Yeah,
So-
what's your thoughts on religion?
Dude,
Are you vegan? Like everything that's going to elicit something.
First of all, I'm just so happy you asked this, because this is a story I needed to share with you.
Sick,
that I
let's
have.
Enjoy it with me, everyone.
So a few weeks ago, I was like talking to my friend Nick about his like meditation practice, and he's like, yeah, like I wake up, I'll sit for like an hour, and you know, I'll do some prayers to like protect the space, protect my energy in my space. And I'm like, what prayers? And he's like, oh, I'll say like the Our Father. And I'm like,
Drop that one.
yeah. And I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, I grew up Catholic and I used to say that. And like, I just feel like I would never have said that prayer ever again in my life.
Yeah, and you're
'Cause
not in Hail Marys.
Yeah, I was saying Hail Marys too. Yeah, exactly. And then he's like, yeah, man, there's some powerful wisdom to those prayers, and it's a protection, you know? And I'm like, dude, okay, I might start saying that. I might start saying Our Fathers. And then a week later, we're at my cottage, and you're like, Tim, say grace. And I'm like, damn, I don't know what to say right now. So I dropped the Our Father, and then our buddy Vince is there, and Vince is like, what the hell, bro? He has a ring that has the Our Father inscribed on it. So you were there for that. You saw this. This was like and there was a crazy experience how he even got that ring.
Yeah.
Right. And then so a few days ago.
Oh, okay. It's the new part.
Yeah, this is the new part. I'm at the Apple store talking to this guy about a new MacBook, and we were just like vibing, and then he's like, yeah, it's a great. And I'm like, he's like, yeah, I used to do some video editing. So like, you know, this MacBook was like good for me or whatever. So, oh yeah, you do video editing? I'm like, yo, what's your email? Like, let me send you some, I'm just starting a podcast, and like, I'm looking for people to work with. And he's like, oh, like, I don't really do anything anymore, but like, he's like, but like, yeah, if you want to email me and like whatever. He's like, I've actually started to say that like I'm looking at maybe starting this again just because this job, whatever, right?
Got it, yeah.
So I'm like, okay, cool. And he like grabs my phone to put in his email, and I see this ring, and I'm like,
it's not the same one.
I'm like, dude, what's on your ring there? He's like, oh, it's the Our Father. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? I'm like, my mind is blown right now. He's like, yeah, it's a super rare ring. I got it from like Croatia or something. I'm like, dude, I'm like, wow, man. He's like, yeah, it's cool. And he doesn't know obviously anything yet.
Yeah.
And he puts his email on my phone. His name's Vince.
No. No.
And I'm just like, your name's Vince? He's like, yeah. I'm like, bro, I have the craziest story to share with you right now. So I shared him the story. I told Vince the story. And so why I tell you this story is because it's just kind of fucked up to think about how this Our Father prayer has like followed me now.
Yeah, it's come back for you.
Yeah, and like I'm not religious, you know, but like I'm down with this prayer.
Yeah.
And like I'm starting to say it now. I think there's some wisdom to it. I'm just gonna continue to go down that path, man. It's like it's fascinating.
Yeah, I know we gotta go, but it just brings up that idea of what is religious.
Right.
Does it mean you go to a building? Mm-hmm. Is it like you go every Sunday at a certain time, or is it like more of an essence or an ambience that person carries?
Right.
And being more than one religion too. I think that's fascinating. Because you know, like I never grew up like that, but I got to tell you, when you did that prayer, I mean, I've done those prayers, like literally when we do them, we call them like our spiritual version, where we just like all hold hands in between the fingers because it means more. Yeah. And we all just say our words of gratitude for the food, which seems like a logical process. I'm sure Charles Munger would do the same thing. It seems logical to thank somebody for like this beautiful food.
Sure.
So we just say, you know, our universe gratitude. Thank you to the chef. Thank you for these ingredients that came together. And usually there's two people in a group that will do it. You've experienced that several times. I've done it like 1,000 times with all the people we've done in these retreats with. No one's pulled out an Our Father. And I got to say, when you hit that, I hit that too. I was as high as a coca leaf, baby. Like I was literally, I almost had tears coming out. Michael and I looked at you and we thought like, why has no one done this for us before? Bring in that element too. That was so powerful.
Yeah. I felt it too, man. And that's why I'm just like, okay, like I'm not just saying this prayer because like someone told me to. I'm saying it, and like every time I say it, it kind of feels powerful. Yeah. And then like my buddy Vince has a ring with the prayer inscribed on it. And then I meet another guy named Vince that has a ring with the exact same. Like, what is happening? So anyway, I'm just like, I'm down to like follow
I'm down
that,
too now.
you know?
I guess I'm being pulled along.
We all end up being like devout Christians.
I'm ready to read the Bible,
oh,
dude.
Shit. Yeah. All right, dude.
Yeah, well, this is beautiful.
Yeah, man.
Can we do it more?
Yeah, 100%.
Sick. Like that.
Okay, bro.
Love you, Tim.
Thanks for coming. Love you, man.